listening to a One Pint Stand, a Minnesota craft beer podcast that tells the stories of craft beer in Minnesota and beyond. So kick back, relax, and grab a cold one. The show starts now. Hello, my name is Dan Bobian, and I write, produce, and host a One Pint Stand. I'm incredibly ecstatic that you are listening. This podcast has been a passion project of mine since 2016. This particular episode has been a long time coming, which is pretty apropos considering the trials and tribulations that Arbeiter went through to open their doors. Arbeiter Brewing Company quickly became a frequent haunt of mine. I gravitated towards Arbeiter for several reasons, but first and foremost, they seem to really embrace diversity in all facets, with their staff, with their patronage, with their community, in a way that few other Twin Cities breweries do. Their beers are tremendous, and they continue to be a place that's tapping into the vibrant culture of their neighborhood in South Minneapolis, and that makes me incredibly happy. I'm just ecstatic to sit down with Juno and Garth, two of the three owners of Arbeiter, as well as their head brewer, Herman, to talk about beer and whatever else we decide to touch on. I doubt you will enjoy listening to this episode as much as I enjoyed putting this interview together, but I love being proved wrong. So let's head out to Arbeiter Brewing Tap Room and get to the beer chat. Cheers! Welcome to another on-location episode of a One Pint Stand. My name is Dan Bobian, and I am your host, and I am so happy to be joined by some of my favorite people who created one of my favorite places. We're at Arbeiter Brewing Company in South Minneapolis, and we've got Juno, Garth, and Aaron here. Gentlemen, thank you so much for having me. I've been wanting to do this for a long while, and I'm glad it finally came together today. Because I'm really excited to hear the Arbeiter story, and I know that all 7 of my listeners will be too. So we're really excited about that. So before we kind of get into the nuts and bolts of the Arbeiter story and what makes this place run, what makes the beers delicious, and what makes the community welcoming, if we could, just everybody, why don't you say your name, what your role is here, and kind of give like a little synopsis of your journey into craft beer.
Okay. I'll start?
Sure.
Okay, cool. Well, yeah, it's a pleasure to have you with us today, Dan. It's awesome. I'm definitely tickled to be chatting with you and doing this podcast with you. So I appreciate it. I always love chatting with you, and I'm looking forward to how this conversation is going to unfold. So my name is Aaron Herman. I'm the head brewer at Arbeiter Brewing. I'm responsible for all the beer. I pull ideas out of my head and I put them in glasses, essentially, is my role here. I'll try to keep my story of how I ended up here relatively brief, I guess, but I started homebrewing in 2010, which is coming up on 13 full years ago now.
Wow.
I volunteered at Vine Park Brewing, where I met Dan Justison, who will come into my story a little bit later, along my journey to get to Arbeiter. I worked at Northern Brewer, which is probably the most pivotal brewing decision I made looking back on things, because that's where I met the entire Arbeiter ownership team, who will be introducing themselves here shortly. And I ended up working at Town Hall starting in May 2012. I washed growlers and kegs and filled growlers and kegs for about over a year and a half there. Just totally grunted my way along, and eventually kind of climbed the ladder when people were leaving. Left there just shy of 6 years. After just shy of 6 years, after Garth and Josh after Juno had kind of tapped me and said, I have a couple friends that are looking to open a brewery in Minneapolis. And I guess, I kind of felt that I was ready after talking to Garth and Josh. I kind of felt that I was ready to, take on that head brewer role and run an actual brew house all by myself. In the interim, so there was a little bit of time after I left Town Hall before Arbeiter got up and going. I landed at Udapils for a brief time, which is owned in part by Dan Justison, so I was able to kind of lean on an old friend.
Oh, yeah, there's that connection.
Get a little bit of work there. I was also head brewer of a little brewery called Brickfield Brewing in Grantsburg, Wisconsin for about a year during that interim phase as well, just to kind of keep my boots on, so to speak. So, and then we started brewing. I think batch number 1 was like late August of 2020 here at Arbeiter, and it was an alt beer.
Yes.
So, here we are today.
Okay, Garth, how did you find your way to this merry little group?
Yeah, I was kind of kicking around after college, and our partner, Josh Voltz, who's not here today, was working at Northern Brewer, just in the warehouse. So, I figured I'd work there as I looked for a graphic design job. That's my background, my degree. And it was a really great culture at that time at Northern Brewer. Everyone was just great. The energy was fantastic. I loved working there. They created a space for me to do design and marketing, and so I just stayed and was there for about 6 years. And at some point, just beyond that, Josh approached me about taking the next step and thinking about starting a brewery. So we kind of did some early groundwork, and we started kind of consulting with Juno, and it made sense to us after about one meeting. We're like, well, we should really ask Juno if he would be foolish enough to do this with us. And to our surprise and enjoyment, he said yes, and we've just kind of been grinding out ever since then, and that's the short of it.
Okay, all right, Juno.
Awesome, yeah. Hey, Dan. Hey, everybody. My name's Juno Choi, one of the co-founders here over at Arbteiter. My story with beers kind of started back in about 2003 is when I joined Northern Brewer. And just fell in love with making beer at that time, and so stuck there for about 10 years and did a lot of great things and got to know Garth, Josh, and even Aaron during those times, and frankly a lot of other people within the brewing industry. So really a great time to really sort of hone my beer knowledge, ingredient knowledge, and things like that, and connect with a lot of great like-minded people within the industry. And after my time there, I ended up working for a company called Brewer Supply Group, or BSG, which is a part of a company called Raw Malting, and did a little bit of sales and some marketing work for them. And really what that company is they distribute ingredients to breweries all across the country. Also, kind of during that time, back in the Northern Brewer days, I did start a small beer festival company, doing beer festivals around Minnesota, not only in markets like the Metro, but focusing in on some lesser-known markets like Mankato, St. Cloud.
It was all over St. Cloud and different things. Yeah.
Definitely. So that was also a great time to go into these towns and get to meet everybody that was making great beer there, and bring beer to some of these small communities too as well. So that was also a great time, just getting to meet people as well too. And really, Garth kind of talked about it, but having been friends with those guys and knowing Aaron, when they came to me and said, hey, we're kind of looking for a brewer, I kind of racked my brain for a little bit, gave them a little bit of a short list, and Aaron came to mind, was really at that top of the list. And I guess the rest is history.
So who, because I think this is really interesting. I know that, for a long while, the brewery growth in Minnesota greatly lagged behind a lot of the other areas in the country. I think some of our laws, the tap room not able to sell beer out of a tap room was a huge obstacle, and I think really kind of like kept that growth stunted. And that when that became a reality, you saw a lot of different things pop up. So as you're all kind of watching this happen in early 2010s, 2011, the quote unquote Surly Bill passes, who first had the idea? Like, who was like, hey, you know what? As you've been working kind of at Northern Brewer and BSG and all those things, you go around with your managing festivals. You were interacting with a lot of different breweries. From the Northern Brewer side, a lot of people in this market came out of Northern Brewer and started their own things. As that's all happening, that energy. Who was the first one? Like, you know what? Why are we selling these kits? Why not? Let's start a thing. How did that initial spark go? Were you sitting there? Because some people, every brewery has a different story. Some people were like, we were 8 beers in one time. We said, let's start a brewery. And then sometimes it's a much more methodical thing. There's charts, there's graphs, there's blueprints and all sorts of things. Was it kind of more like, hey, this idea has been staring us in the face for the last year or two? Or was it like, no, I think we're all kind of building, and it was just kind of like, we've been talking about it for long enough. Let's just take the plunge.
Josh had the blueprints, right?
Well, before getting into that, I know that Juno had dipped his toe kind of in this before, so maybe...
Yeah, well, I will say, being a home brewer, we all have aspirations, whether or not that turns into reality, but we've all sort of thought about that aspect because we found something that we're passionate about. And, maybe we'll turn this into something more. So I did think about that a few different times, kind of like a lot of people did, and kind of was approached to be a part of one brewery back in the day. Also was part of, with another fellow, Rob, actually from BBS, we were going to start a brewery back in the day as well, too.
Really? Okay.
But through series of events and other things, it just didn't feel right at that time.
Yeah.
Or there were other circumstances that just didn't make it possible. So frankly, for me, at least personally, it had always been in the back of my head, but I kind of put that off a little bit.
Yeah.
And I had a great time within the beer industry working for Northern Brewer and with BSG. So I kind of put that away for a bit.
Yeah.
Until, Josh and Garth reached out.
Yeah.
Before maybe Garth talks about the actual Arbeiter origin story or that vision and stuff, I kind of, Juno's story triggered my memory of almost as soon as I got into homebrewing, I kind of quickly realized that I really like the process of making beer, and I felt this weird kind of, I didn't really know how to explain it or understand it at the time, but I felt a connection with it somehow, and I felt like I understood it, and I wanted to be with beer, it's
like you've read my dream journal.
Yeah, right. Almost from essentially from the very first homebrew kit I ever did, and I found myself even before. Well, that's why I volunteered at Vine Park. I was I want to get into the beer industry somehow. And I'm willing to volunteer my time in order to do that, in order to get some experience, to get my toe in the door. So I have essentially zero business acumen, and I even found myself at one point attempting to start a business plan to start a brewery someday back in those 2011 or so, just because. But I felt this just kind of crazy connection to making beer from the get-go. So
was it? Yeah. When you say connection, can you pinpoint the moment when it happened, or was it just kind of you said from the get-go, you brew your first batch and you're like, wow, this is actually really fun, and it kind of triggered something in your brain where you're like, this is also fascinating. I'm very into it. Totally. I want to learn more.
So it was an extract kit from Midwest Supply. It was an Amarillo Pale Ale. I bought, just a 5-gallon, bucket, this chip, the most basic, starter kit. Had some friends help me out on the actual brew day. The brew day went fine. We were just fretting over every single word along the, in the instructions and stuff to make sure everything was sanitary and all that. And then, it fermented and I bottled it. And then I remember my friends weren't around on the day when I decided to crack that very first bottle, but I'll never forget that. I was standing in the kitchen at this house that I was living in with a couple buddies at the time. The bottle had been in the fridge for a few days, so it was a nice cold, kind of amber-colored pale ale, and I cracked the bottle, and it opened like a normal beer, and I took a swig right out of the bottle, and quite literally my knees buckled underneath me. I was like, oh my God, this tastes like pretty decent, okay beer, and I made it. This is amazing.
Yeah.
I had no idea what to expect when I opened that very first bottle, but to my surprise and delight, it was like, wow, this tastes like a pretty decent, fine beer, and I made it. So I was essentially hooked, and then, I only did, maybe a couple handfuls of extract batches, and I jumped into all grain right away, and just the hot side brewing, wort making process, I just started to feel a connection with, and I felt like I just understood it.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's kind of debatable at some point these days, but yeah, it's I guess I can't really pinpoint what it is about the art, the process of making beer that I feel this connection to, but I enjoy. Maybe I'm getting too far ahead of myself, but as far as commercially brewing goes, I enjoy the physical labor, I enjoy the science of it, I enjoy the artistry of it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of components. It exercises a lot of different aspects of my brain.
Garth, did you ever homebrew?
Yeah, I did. I kind of come at this from a different kind of side of things, where design and marketing. But my first homebrew kit was an Irish Red clone kit in 2001. I did not fret over the instructions about to be sanitary, and it turned out terrible. And I was like, well, I'm never going to do this again. But then, fast forward, and I ended up working, in the homebrewing industry, and I was never that great of a brewer, but I really enjoyed the aspects of design and marketing in craft beer, because it's just so free and fun, and that really, for me personally, scratches my itch in this industry as a creative. Is just there's not many industries like the craft beer industry for creative freedom. It's really just have fun, and I don't know. That's kind of what kept me hooked and wanted me personally to be involved with this, because there's just not a lot of places you can go and have that creative freedom.
Yeah.
And I can't speak for Josh, but he was a good home brewer, could win awards, and I think his aspirations were probably brewing, much like Aaron and Juno. But I think, to speak to Juno's point, things were pretty good at Northern Brewer, and even though breweries were popping up, we felt we had a good thing going there too, and we took pride in kind of being an incubator for these breweries, and we felt at that time it was just as important as a brewery, and it really wasn't until there was sort of a cultural shift at Northern Brewer that sort of kind of rattled us all a little bit. And
was that when it sold? Because I can't remember what year that was, but I remember early on, weren't they all kind of individually owned and managed, or were they always part of a franchise? I know there's one in Milwaukee.
I'll let Juno speak to the origins of Northern, how all that went down. But I think that, just real quick, when that shifted, I think that's when a lot of people were like, oh, this is not going to work for me to be here anymore.
Okay.
What's next?
Yeah.
And exactly. And that's kind of how this kind of got sparked, was Northern's no longer going to be where we're going to stay. So
sure.
Where do we go from here?
Yeah.
Yeah, to touch a little bit on the Northern story, and to say that we'll never, forget, and I really appreciate the time that we all had there. But I worked there for about 10 years, and in that 9th year, we had a lot of venture capitalists looking at Northern Brewer as a business that they wanted to get part of this beer craze, this homebrewing craze that had been going on. And so really, in the end, the owner of Northern Brewer, a gentleman named Chris Farley, did partner up with some venture capitalists.
Okay.
I think to me and maybe to a lot of the other people, we just didn't agree with maybe some of the things that they were doing there. And so personally, that's why I left there as well. But really, Northern Brewer did have multiple retail locations, which we had a store in Milwaukee. We had a store in Minneapolis as well, too, in addition to the original St. Paul location. So, but what had been, like Garth said, we were an incubator for a lot of different breweries that are out here now. And frankly, having worked that original St. Paul location, I got to see a lot of all the people that own breweries now. So whether it's the Liftbridge guys, the Fulton guys, even Omar back in the day from Surly and stuff like that, people like from Dangerous Man, etc. So it was really a special place where a lot of people that had the love of beer and a love of making it got together, and so that was pretty special. But maybe something, all good things must come to an end a little bit. Although I would say, those original venture capitalists are now gone, and they've gone through a different number of hands at Northern Brewer. And I think they've been some really positive people that have taken over the companies in some of those iterations past that first venture capitalist. So I know a lot of people that still work there, and a lot of people are happy over there. So
good.
We have nothing but good feelings about Northern Brewer.
Well, there's a lot of places where there isn't a great homebrew store, and I think that's like, you never know when the next person who's going to be like inspired by a kit or something like that is going to come along, and if they don't have access to that, that's really sad. Because I know you can order stuff online, but there is something really fun about walking into Northern Brewer, going into the room where there's the grain, and you can like smell it and really have that tactile experience and really see, it's like, wow, this is inspiring. I made my fair share of, they had their version of Moose Drool, the caribou slobber. I made a lot of caribou slobber back in the day. And then I didn't really get to all grain. I was like, the very first time I brewed, I was trying to be very meticulous with a friend. We were sanitizing everything, triple reading, quadruple reading the instructions. We get done everything, and we get this little packet of what looks like rabbit pellets. I'm like, what do you suppose these are for? And so we let it ferment. Basically, I think I was ahead of my time, because it tasted like hard seltzer, but not a good hard seltzer. It's like, well, we drank it. I'm like, there's definitely alcohol in here, but I'm not getting it. It tastes very strange. It doesn't taste like anything. It was supposed to be like a pale ale, and it was a disaster. I'm like, maybe I'm just cut out to drink it and talk about it and write about it. I'll leave the making it up to the professionals, but I think homebrewing is so interesting. Having been to a couple homebrew cons in the over my time in beer writing, it's like, when you go to club night at a homebrew con, you're not going to find better beer in a city, and there's really, there's something to that. I think it'd be just fun to like have a random like competition, randomly assign a homebrew club to go toe to toe with a professional brewery, and let like people come in and drink and do blind tastings. And there's a lot of quality homebrewers out there. So the fact that we have such a almost an embarrassment of riches when it comes to like access to homebrewing supplies in the Twin Cities is really cool.
Definitely, and I think I will echo. I've been to a lot of different homebrew cons. I've been there with professional brewers, and we always walk around and try a lot of the different beers. Some are not good, some are good, some are great.
Yeah.
And I think it's always interesting. A lot of people have they have the time, they're able to hone their skills, they're really passionate about beer and making beer, and frankly, they know a lot. Obviously there's some things too where, there's a lot of people that tend to think that they know a lot more than they actually do with home brewing, but or with beer in general. But having been to club night and things like that, you'll find a lot of great beer there, a lot of interesting beer as too, because they're not limited by what will sell in a tap room, so they're able to spend a lot more money or a lot of creative ideas and wacky things too, to really push the envelope sometimes.
Yeah. So making the transition from talking about opening up a brewery to all of a sudden, all right, we're doing this. From the time that conversation happened to the time that you sold your first beer over the counter, I mean, that was a long while. In years, it had to feel exponentially longer for you all. Take me through that process, and maybe I have to imagine there were some points where you were all like, listen, I don't know if this is going to work. Maybe the universe is trying to tell us that this is a bad idea. Did it ever get to that point? Or talk me through from, okay, we're gonna open up this brewery to, selling your first pint over the counter. What was that journey like?
Well, I'd say I admire anybody that wants to start their own business, start their own brewery, frankly, and be an entrepreneur. It's not an easy thing. There's a lot of sacrifice, both personally and for family and other things like that. So not for the faint-hearted, for sure. And I think, especially if you don't come from money, there's a lot of big aspect, too, of just trying to raise a lot of capital to get your loans, to get started. So really, at least where I came in, when Garth and Josh approached me, they already had done a work in terms of thinking about the business and all that sort of stuff. But that was, a really part of the whole journey, and it's always changing as well, too. What you think going in is always going to be different when you're in the thick of it.
Yeah.
And at least I think when we began as three founders of the brewery, and with Aaron, our head brewer, it was a long journey, and it was, there's quite a few times too where we did think, wow, we got ourselves into a pretty big thing here. The wheels are turning, and we're starting to move this thing, but there's a lot of obstacles in the way of getting things open. So, I think maybe speaking for Josh and Garth and everybody, but it's probably was a 7-year process, at least from the idea perhaps to finally being able to be open. And so that just gives people a little bit of some understanding on how long it does take, especially when you got to do everything yourself to get going and put everything together.
As far as I remember the story going, right, with Garth and Josh had the idea, or Josh, together, essentially. I forget exactly what that exact origin story is, but as far as I remember, right, there were a couple different kind of attempts at starting Arbeiter before you guys even landed on where we're at now with this specific space, which used to be Harriet Brewing. And
I was gonna say, we're from
and then having myself, making the beer and Juno on board and everything.
Yeah, I mean, it was like anything. It started out as an idea, and then I started working on branding for fun at night when I came home from work, and then just slowly building a business plan, and. I don't know how real we thought it was in the beginning. We're like, well, let's just chip away at the business plan, and so it probably took longer than it had to because we just never done anything like that before, so that took a while.
When you said you, this just popped into my mind. I'm very random, but like you said that, I had this image of like, you know, in those like those crime shows with the detective is like chain smoking, and he's got like, imagine like, you know, your wife waking up, coming downstairs, and you've got like the picture window, you've got all this yarn and different things and like marker and stuff.
I wish
like,
you were wrong, Dan. I'm not even kidding. I printed out I don't know, it must have been like an 18 by 24 map of the Twin Cities, and I pinned where there was a brewery, and then kind of like marking out like how far away we'd be from someone to try to figure out a location. You know, eventually that was kind of scrapped because it became to a point where it's just like, where can we go? You know what I mean?
I've got it. Well, the Atlantis Brewing will be underwater.
Yeah, exactly.
In Lake Nokomis.
They'll blow their minds. So yeah, I mean, yeah, there was definitely a little bit of that, and and like Juno said too, like we like self-funded this. There was like a lot of sacrifices that I didn't even make to make this happen, and money that fell through, and speak of like signs from the universe that it shouldn't happen. It was like one after the other. Government shutdowns, pandemic, and civil unrest. You know, there was like just a lot of things that could have been like, you know what, let's call it.
Yeah.
You know, but instead of looking at it that way, because we're kind of stubborn, driven people, we use these what do we call it? Not adversary, but these things, challenges.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we took that and spun that and kind of made it who we are now.
Yeah.
So like,
well, and you have such a great team. I mean, the level of understanding between ownership and Aaron at that point, you know, I feel like it just had to be, let's just get open, and then it's going to work, because, you know, through that time in Minnesota, there were tons of breweries opening, and it was like, yeah, you open a brewery in that certain window of time, and it's like you were going to be successful no matter what for a while, because there wasn't enough competition, and the quality wasn't. I would say that the quality was not always equal. It was not always what you would want. Not everybody was Town Hall.
For sure.
And so, like, I have to imagine that every time there was a setback, you kind of just like, all right, you know what? We're going to roll with this because we have the recipe for what will work, you know, and whereas there's a lot of people that open up a brewery, and it's like, you know, sometimes like, oh, all their friends told them their home brew was good, so open up this brewery and, you know, flush $400,000 down the toilet. You didn't have that problem. You had, you know, years of industry experience and know-how from different facets, and I think that as I have gotten to know you all, and I've gotten to understand your own paths to where we're at, there's so much great perspective and understanding of what works, what doesn't work. There's a veteran feel here that you don't necessarily have at every brewery you walk into. So I would imagine that was a big comfort and a way to kind of like, hey, let's work the process, work the plan. You know, this is a minor setback.
You're too kind, Dan. You're too kind. Even though we did have various experience within different parts of the industry, I will say this was still all of our first time opening up a brewery, and there's a lot that we learned in that process. And, you know, I would say it's nice to have some experience outside of the brewing industry, too, when you do open up a business as well, too, or a brewery as well, too. But with that said, I think we all had fairly good heads on our shoulders here. We were motivated, and having some of that wherewithal to stick through it, knowing that, hey, we just need to get the doors open and we'll figure out the rest from there, and we'll let some of the beer speak for ourselves. Is kind of the path, that part of the path that we took. I will say to talk back to what Garth had mentioned. It was a difficult time just dealing with the government shutdowns. We had that caused a lot of delays in terms of just responsiveness and working with the city and a few other things like that. Things that, sometimes we felt could have been helped. Sometimes maybe we understand that they couldn't have been helped in those scenarios. So all that time that we spent trying to get the doors opening, that was adding some increased pressure on us as well, too. We had this great location, this great building, this great history here in this neighborhood, but we still had to pay rent during those times that we were trying to get open. And that was, frankly, one of the biggest things, I think, for us was having this building and having all those expenses of having the building, yet not producing anything in order to generate any income. So for a while, we were seeing some of our money that we had got invested and we had built in and put in slowly depleting. And so it was getting kind of scary there for a while.
Definitely.
As that happened. And then things like the pandemic as well, too. Obviously, that put a little bit of a damper on everything as well. And also, I would say our opening, right? You mentioned, hey, we opened up in what I really say is December of 2020. And we were dealing with, the lockdown of things with COVID here. We never got a true grand opening. We never did a soft opening, had our friends and family, all in industry stuff like that. So that big influx of potential money coming in right away when we opened wasn't there, too. Yeah. So it was kind of like, yay, we're open, but you can only have 5 people in the brewery for to-go beer at a time.
Can't even play sorry. What the hell?
I'll just say it's been a ride. It was quite a big ride getting open. Yeah. A lot of emotions, stuff happening even personally with our own lives and families and stuff like that, which adds on to some of the complexity. But we made it. But yeah, it was definitely a difficult journey, I would say.
Yeah. Now, go ahead.
Sorry. Well, speaking to another point too that you had made, we knew that we wouldn't be able to just be like some home brewers opening up a brewery and like hoping to survive. We knew that we needed to hit the ground running with excellent beer, which is why we wanted to find a brewer that had experience, and any brewer that's come under the tutelage of Mr. Hoops has been solid. So I mean, that's just a huge.
Talk about an incubator.
Seriously, and Aaron's just an awesome person in general, but also to have the Hoops aspect of that, we knew that we would have a solid product out of the gate.
Yeah. I want to talk about the location. Obviously, if you're listening to this, and again, if you're just joining us, we're at Arbeiter Brewing Company in South Minneapolis. I'm talking with Juno, Garth, and Aaron. This is the second brewery to inhabit this footprint. And the first brewery was Harriet Brewing. And I think if you are knowledgeable about the craft beer history in Minnesota, you know about Harriet. There's been a lot of people who got their start in one way or another at Harriet Brewing. So this is kind of craft beer hallowed ground, this location. And I think, had you looked, I'm assuming, you had your map of the underground Twin Cities and where you could do a pop-up manhole brewery. What were some of the other spots you were entertaining when you did you immediately think, well, we want to be in Minneapolis, or were you looking at St. Paul? Were you looking outside the metro?
We were entertaining Minneapolis and St. Paul for sure.
Okay.
Other locations. There was a indoor soccer complex across the street from Wild Minds that we were very interested in. That we kind of put some time into figuring out if we could obtain that space. Ultimately, they wanted to keep it as an indoor soccer facility. Another place that we kind of went down the road on a little bit was kind of by Insight, kind of by the U of M reuse center, a building back in there. Turned out it was just like too big. We didn't know what to do with all that square footage, which is funny now. It's like, just make a cooler half the size of that and you're good. And
lessons learned.
Yeah, I mean, we looked at so many locations, I guess, but the reason that we came here is I reached out to an organization called the Lake Street Council. I was like, hey, we like Longfellow, we like Lake Street, we like this community. Have you heard of any available buildings that might be able to house a brewery? They got back to me. They said, well, yeah, the building that was the former Harriet Brewing is available. And I said, absolutely not. Thank you. let me know if you find something else. And then I'm serious. And I didn't want to, there's just bad vibes of opening a business where something has already existed and failed. You're just like, no, I don't want anything to do with it. They reached back out to me, I don't know, like a month or so later. And they're like, we think you should reconsider this. Like, meet the landlords. Like, just have a conversation, then make your decision. Yeah. So they got back to me about it, and I was like, okay, well, if they're gonna reach out back to me, let's do this. So we talked to our landlords who, speaking of the challenges of paying rent, getting open. I mean, our landlords, you couldn't ask for better people. I mean, they've been so incredibly supportive in so many ways. That's
wonderful.
If it wasn't for them, we honestly probably would not be here right now. So hats off to them.
Nice.
They've been our biggest supporters, honestly. We met them and we aligned politically off the bat. They're very, open-minded, inclusive people that own this building, and it was more of an interview on us. Yeah. What kind of humans are you? And and we aligned on everything, and and they were like, well, let's take a look at the space, and kind of talked it out, and we decided that this would be a good place, and people to this day miss Harriet, and will come in here and be like, man, Harriet was awesome. This looks way better. The beer is way better, but we miss Harriet, because they had something special that no brewery is going to be able to recapture.
Yeah, there was a definite romanticism about Harriet.
Yeah.
And there was just a feel and a vibe. And I think, they had their own journey of ups and downs, but I think a lot of people really do look back fondly on those days for what it meant, because it kind of ushered in the new age of craft beer in Minnesota.
Yeah, they were ahead of their time in a lot of regards.
Yeah.
I'd say, yeah.
Hey, thank you so much for listening. Hopefully you're enjoying a One Pint Stand. My aim is to help spread the word about craft beer. Enjoying craft beer is a passion of mine, and I love chatting about it with other people. A One Pint Stand has a goal of helping breweries tell their stories. I love to get out in and beyond Minnesota to visit breweries, beer bars, and meet other interesting beer people. If you are also into those things, you probably want to keep tabs on the show. So go ahead and follow a One Pint Stand on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We would also appreciate any and all positive reviews on Spotify and iTunes to help make it easier for other craft beer listeners to find us. If you like reading about craft beer, I started my own blog, and all of my writing can be found at aonepintstand.com. After 8 years of writing as editor-in-chief at Beer Pluma, it was time for me to start my own blog. So make sure you check out the blog for some interesting craft beer content of the written variety. I truly appreciate you listening and taking time to enjoy our stories. Now, back to the show. You got this space, you got things, you're working through getting open. When did you know that Aaron was the man? for the man with the mash paddle.
Well, again, Juno had come to me at one point. I think it was like, maybe sometime in like 2017 even. And he was like, I know a couple guys that are looking to open a brewery in Minneapolis. At that point, I kind of thought I was a lifer at Town Hall, to be quite honest. In certain ways, and more than just a few certain ways. Mike Hoops was indeed kind of grooming me to potentially take over for him one day, because, he's been in the industry, even at that point, 6-ish years ago, he had already been at Town Hall for about 20 years.
Yep.
So, so I didn't really think I was probably ever going to leave Town Hall, but it was, Juno had kind of, I guess, had confidence in me, and like I said before, just the one conversation with Josh and Garth, everything just kind of felt right, and I felt like I was ready for it. For me, it was a big decision, again, because at that point I thought I was probably going to stay at Town Hall for a long time, so I had reached out to a close friend of mine, Tom Schuffman, who's the head brewer, that time was the head brewer at Waconia, who I met I met him before I even started homebrewing through disc golf, but Tom and I worked together at Northern Brewer, and had gone, on to, commercial paths, individually and stuff, so I leaned on him a little bit, just asked him some advice as far as what his experience was leaving Fulton and to start Waconia Brewing, and because I was considering doing something similar. So I talked to him, and then I actually reached back out to Juno, and we went out to dinner at Macelax one night, and the way I remember it at least was at the end of the dinner he said something to the effect of, well, I wasn't going to tell you this, but I think you should go for it. And then it was kind of, I think, shortly after that or about the same time when Juno decided to kind of sign on as a founding owner with Josh and Garth as well. So at least the way I like to phrase the story is Juno and I convinced each other to join Garth and Josh.
Nice.
So I don't know. There was just kind of something within me that kind of just felt natural. It felt right to make that kind of big decision for me to leave Town Hall, to do my own thing, to figure out what kind of brewer I'm capable of being. So at least that's when I knew I was the man with the mash paddle from my own perspective. But
so talk to me about the beers here, because at Town Hall they do everything. Mm-hmm. They do traditional styles, seasonally appropriate styles. I don't believe in the, September through August. I like to go by, I know it's fall because that's when the Oktoberfest is on. I know it's winter because that's when the Elf's Elixir is on,
Totally.
So some people trust the calendar.
Elf's Elixir.
We're playing the deep cuts here at One Pint
Totally,
But like,
Baltic Porter.
So you had a plethora of styles that you had to brew. Since you got to brew, yes, right, exactly. Absolutely right. No, it wasn't. Yeah, well said.
No, you're right. You're right. I had to brew those beers.
Yeah, it's like well, people are still thirsty, man. So as you were kind of like tossing around ideas about what types of things you were going to have on tap, what kind of like what resonated with you, or what I think everybody, brewers that I've talked to, I don't think you like immediately in your first job, like you said, figure out what type of brewer you are. Like, I think there's always beers that brewers want to brew, whether or not under the umbrella of a professional setting, those don't always make sense. Like I want to do all Rauch beer all the time. It's like, okay. The market says otherwise. But like, how did you kind of start to formulate a plan of like what the tap list was going to look like?
Sure. Well, with kind of Josh and Garth's image of what they wanted Arbiter to be, At least like aesthetically, they were thinking kind of German beer hall meets like Up North Dive Bar.
Oh, okay.
So, and Arbeiter, of course, it's, I'm not sure if we touched on this earlier or not, but the word Arbeiter is a German word for worker or laborer.
Yep.
So we kind of have like a little bit of like, working man's beer, like a blue collar, come in and, have a couple beers after, a day of, good labor work or what have you. So, let's see. So with the German name, we knew we were going to have like at least a bit of a German influence to at least some of the portfolio.
Yeah.
And then in thinking about, thanks, Juno. In thinking about, this is the Lawn Dorts, by the way. Dortmunder.
Hey. Speaking of working man's beer.
Exactly.
Cheers.
Right. Yeah. Cheers. I kind of started coming up with a bit of an idea, and I'm sure it wasn't original, but I kind of coined a term, at least in my own mind, Bavarican.
I have the same thing tattooed on my lower back.
Oh, do you really? Nice. Yeah. In Old English, right?
Yeah, like the Detroit Tigers font.
Yeah, exactly.
Bavarican,
yeah. So, I mean, it wasn't anything like totally extraordinary, but like I was thinking, like, let's make American styles with German ingredients.
Yeah.
And the only one that's kind of really stuck as far as that goes is the West Coast IPA, which is our house IPA. So it is an American styled IPA made with all German ingredients, from the malt to the hops to the yeast. Let's see, but beyond, that, my focus on brewing has always just been quality, which of course I learned from Town Hall.
Yeah.
Coming out of Town Hall, I felt I was never really intimidated by any beer style per se. I was able to, because I had to make all those beers.
Right.
I was able to learn.
Makes it sound like you were like chained to a kettle, like brew more.
Sometimes, mentally at least, sometimes I was.
Yeah.
I still am actually, but. For better or for worse. But no, I got to use a lot of different yeast strains, so I felt like I had at least, nice, doubling down on the beers.
Oh boy, here we go.
Heck yeah.
There it is.
Yeah. We better have a lot to say here.
Quite a lineup. Let me get a picture of this. No one's going to believe me that this happened.
So both Garth and Juno got up to get beers while I was babbling about beer, and we have more beers than we know what to do with at the moment, so...
I have an idea of what we can do.
Well, fair.
This is not my first rodeo.
All right.
I didn't wear my comfy pants for nothing.
Giddy up. But yeah, so quality and not really having, I guess, at least a little confidence in feeling that I could probably tackle almost any sort of style. And then once we got kind of up and running, it was, from a yeast management perspective, it was like, well, we need a lager strain because we want to make lager beers. We need to have like a German ale strain because of the whole Bavarican thing.
Yes.
And then we kind of briefly used an English ale strain to make like more kind of quote-unquote traditional American styles.
Yeah.
There are 4 fermenters and 4 bright tanks down there in our little 10-barrel brewery, so it was really tough to juggle 3 yeast strains at all times.
Yeah.
So we let the English ale strain go, and now we're just using a lager strain and a German ale strain.
Okay.
So I make pretty much all my beer. We'll bring in an occasional guest strain to make an imperial stout, for example, or a very southern German Hefeweizen. But I don't know, kind of babbling on here. But yeah, I think my approach to brewing and the beers is it's all about quality. Yeah. Really. And it's been fun to kind of explore German beer styles because I wasn't necessarily all that well versed. Town Hall was a little bit more of like an English, beer style history to them. Yeah. Using an English yeast strain and making more like kind of porters and, kind of maybe pre 2010 style, like American style pale ales and IPAs and stuff. So they were kind of leaning more into that. Whereas when we got going here with Arbeiter, we're in the age of hazies and crispy boys and stuff. So it's like, well, we gotta lean into that at least to some degree.
Yeah.
So thus the, kind of, well, and once we did get going too, lo and behold, I mean, I guess I kind of discovered that I'm a fairly decent lager brewer, which has been very rewarding to see, to be honest. So we've been leaning into that, leaning into a little bit of the new style cold IPA, which is super fun to make. Doing barrel aged stuff, of course. I definitely learned a thing or two about putting beer in wood from
I know
from
I speak
Mr.
for
Hoops,
all of the partaking Twin Cities when I say thank you. Thank you for doing that, bringing that
you're welcome.
element.
You can thank Mike Hoops for
and
essentially almost, I mean, one of the early pioneers, quite literally, of barrel aging beers in the entire country.
Yeah.
He won a medal in, I think, the year 2000.
Yep.
For a barrel-aged imperial stout.
Yep.
And it was in a specialty beer category.
Right.
It wasn't even a wood-aged beer category.
The following year they had to. Because I think that beer was like, okay, we need to have this category because this is a thing now.
Yeah.
So
I wasn't sure when they created that category, but I knew that he won a medal before there was even a wood-aged category. So.
Yeah, which I think is pretty special.
Oh, very special.
That's really awesome.
Very special.
Yeah.
So, and I was fortunate enough to learn, a few things about barrel aging beers from him. So, So keep your eyes open for barrel aged beers coming out of Arbeiter.
Yes, very good. So, I think a lot of, you opened up this brewery in an interesting time, because drinking habits have really evolved over the years, and I would say that like the advent of the whole New England style IPA set off such a fervor amongst craft beer drinkers, and yes, I was like thesaurus.com. What's an intelligent way to say excited? Back in, I don't know, I think it was Alchemist, right? That they were doing, as legend has it, they were doing heavily dry hopped IPAs, using a lot of en vogue hops that were more on the kind of juicy tropical side, not so much the tongue splitting bittering IPAs of the early 2000s, of more of the West Coast styles, and they have a thing that like on the cans, like, drink this from the can, and everybody really liked it, and I know some people out there say that, like, well, the reason they were saying that is because it looked atrocious. It looked basically like you were, pouring, orange juice concentrate into a pint glass. Just drink it from the can. That's fine. But that became a huge deal. So obviously the demand. I mean, the public drinker drives the demand of what you can have your druthers about what you want to brew, but really you just have to do what the people want. And I think early on in everybody's craft beer history, they sample different styles, but everybody kind of lands on the styles that they really gravitate towards. But like, I think that was a big shift, and since then, 2015, 2016, thereabouts, when those started to become really in vogue, a lot of breweries are doing those, and now you see, like, you can walk into some really popular breweries and find 5 or 6 different hazy IPAs. Whereas I kind of got into craft beer in like 2006, 2007. You'd walk into a place, you'd have like an amber ale, a brown ale, a pale ale, IPA, a breadth of styles. And now it's like, well, places are hyper focusing on these beers, which, by the way, are not cheap to make. When you're dry hopping with a metric butt ton of sexy hops that are, shipped in
expensive.
from New Zealand and
exactly.
Massaged by unicorns in a lab. It's like, okay, that's pricey. So
Arbiter now hiring unicorns.
And so your tap list when you open, I thought had a lot of really great options for everybody. You have kind of like everyday person beer. You've got like the the pilsners, the alt beer, the kind of like things that aren't going to scare anybody if they're new to craft beer away. You have the hoppy beers, you have the hazy IPAs, you have sours, and you have like every now and then, the Nachtreiter. The Nachtreiter. That was the beer when I came in and tried. I'm like, oh wow, this is fantastic.
Thanks for saying that.
So you have the beers that the I call them the beer people, the haze boys that they want to drink. But then you also have like beers that really tickle the fancy of the traditional drinker. I love it. I love all of it. I love it when you come up with some of the collabs in the lager. The collaborative lager series. Mm-hmm. Yep, you've done with Uda Pills, Jay Smarty.
Yeah, Eric Harper at Uda Pills. We did also with Nico Talks of Fair State.
Yep, yep. So that's been kind of like a fun series. Mm-hmm. Of course, you have your barrel-aged beers, the anniversary week beers. A fantastic variety of different styles and flavors, and kind of like you get a little bit of kind of like fuse some different styles together. There's just a lot of fun variety, and I think obviously, Juno, with your background at BSG and understanding like quality ingredients and the importance of that, pairing that up with Aaron's mentality of quality above all else. You're all putting out some wonderful beers.
I think, we're rooted in tradition, but we have a lot of experimentation going on. We're open for everything. And frankly, I think, we opened a brewery with 18 tap lines, and we all like a little bit of variety. We're true beer lovers. We like different styles. We like variety. And so we want to emulate what we hope to see in our place as well too. So it's been great having Aaron's ability to do a wide range of styles really well, and even some styles that he didn't know so well. He's leaned into learning those as well too, because we do want to have a lot of variety and be sort of a well-rounded brewery as well too. Yes, we make great lagers. Yes, we're doing cool things with experimental hops and experimental styles and things like that. But we're true beer lovers at heart, and so we want to drink everything. Frankly, a lot of times these days we're fighting over what beers we're going to actually make because we only have so much capacity. But because there's so many great styles of beers out there, and yes, we do. Dan, you were talking about hazies, and those are very important. That's been very good for the craft beer industry in terms of business and responding to what consumers want. But also, too, we have to make sure that we have to give consumers what we want, but we have to have a point of view. Otherwise, we all become the same.
Right.
And I think, having a point of view, having some individuality really makes the landscape of the beer scene, at least locally, better for everybody.
Yeah. No, that's a good segue into the next thing that I wanted to talk about is you're talking about identity. And obviously one way that a brewery can show their identity is through the beers that they produce. But also, I think we can all agree that a really good brewery is a brewery that you walk into and it just has a feel. It has a positive vibe. I've been in breweries where I don't get the feel. I don't get I call it my craft beer spidey sense. When I walk into a place, sometimes my craft beer spidey sense, it doesn't really do much. And I'm like, wait, something's missing here. But there is definitely a feel here that is unique. And I mean, I think I'm just guessing here, and you're going to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it starts with the people. Your staff is among the best in this industry, in this state. You have wonderful people who understand what it means to be welcoming. You have staff that understand what it means to be, patient. I think a lot of people in beer, they get a lot of folks coming in. It's like, well, what do you have that's closest to Coors Light? And there's some breweries where like the staff just like kind of turns their nose up at that, and that's really unfortunate because everybody works really hard for their money. And if you're going to come in and pay for beer, and you're going to be kind of like disrespected or kind of like, oh, you don't know about that, I'm going to lord this knowledge over you. That's not a positive experience, and most people won't be back. But I think I've seen it. I've seen your staff be very patient and like talk people through, well, what do you like? And that's always a great thing. Like, where are you at? And so I know what beer I can get for you. Your staff does a wonderful job with that. Every time I come in, it's just nice to see friendly faces, and faces that don't all look the same. I think that and I go to a lot of different breweries, and I don't always see a diverse staff. And I'm not just talking about in one level. It's not just bartenders, not just like everybody. Every level of Arbeiter has diversity. And with that comes a richness of experience, perspective, and I applaud that. I think that is a wonderful thing, and I think it's very special. And I think that adds to the feel of this place. I love the artwork on the walls. I love the different colors. I think this is a very welcoming space to be. That's not by accident.
No, and thank you for that, Dan. I think, it feels good when we get some of that validated through our patrons, from you. We try to be as intentional as possible whenever we can. And I think, everything from our staff. Luckily, when we first started, we had some friends and some people that we had known through the industry that were excited that we were going to be open, and we're excited to be at a place. And so we were very fortunate to have a lot of people that had been in the industry, seasoned people. We also had new people as well, too. And so, that was a big thing with the welcoming atmosphere. Obviously, the people that are serving your beer are your face to the public, and so we can't be happier with the staff that we've had. And so we've been very fortunate, and we've been very lucky for that. And we've also been intentional with that, and I think the feel that, the whole team has tried to bring in here is authentic as we can be, and so hopefully that has translated into a feeling of welcomeness. To speak to one aspect too, in terms of diversity or inclusivity, for the listeners out there, I'm a person of color, been so in the beer industry for a long time, and I think this has been a personal point of pride, being here in this brewery, being somebody that's visible. Because I do believe representation matters.
It absolutely does.
And when you talked earlier about seeing a little bit more of diverse patrons in here, that's been really something that's been special to me, and I know special to everybody else that's a part of Arbeiter. And I think we're also part of our community, which is a diverse community.
Yeah.
And we want to emulate that as best as possible, too. And so I think, being intentional with that as much as possible and trying to do our best is seen and feeling when you come in here, and there's a feeling of welcomeness and things like that. Always more things to work on, always things that we need to do for outreach. We always want to try to get people that aren't necessarily craft beer fanatics to come in, people from our community, and so we're still working on ways that we can best do that.
And I like that, because I think it's there isn't like sometimes it's like, it's, you want to connect with people, you want to make people feel welcome, and that is a lot of times easier said than done. So trying different things, but having the commitment to that, and not only like talking the talk, but walking the walk. I think that's very, very, very important. And I think that there's like, you all have done a lot of cool things, but I think like with everybody, like there's room for growth and improvement with that. But just like understanding that is like important is a big deal.
Yeah.
For me as just a human, just another human.
Definitely. I think,
take away the craft beer part of it, but it means a lot to me as a person of color to come into a space where like I'm not the only. That's huge. There's a lot of times where that's like always been the case.
Yeah.
And this is always one place that I know I'm not going to have that experience. I'm going to feel like, okay, there's others. I'm not just,
Yeah.
And that I it's hard to articulate what that means, but it means a hell of a lot.
Definitely. I've being a person of color myself, walking and, through my experiences working within the beer industry, getting to travel East Coast, West Coast, North, South, seeing a lot of tap rooms, seeing a lot of places. Sometimes I catch myself in here being like, wow, well, this is something pretty special that we have that we're building. Yes, there should be more happening everywhere else. But I definitely feel proud about that. And I think, part of that is some intentionality as well, too. If you tend to look at the people that we have worked with as a company, whether it's to all of the food vendors and food trucks and people that we work with, or to some of the artists and makers that we deal with artists, we want to be intentional with that because that matters to us. I know that I want to put my dollars into a place that I can feel comfortable with or aligned with on a personal level. So I think it's also I'm glad that you feel welcome and have a positive thing with this space. And frankly, part of that also helps us keep going, knowing that we're putting a little bit of money where our mouth is, and we want to be part of a community, and frankly, we want to be intentional with our business.
Yeah, that's great. So, we're at so you opened in December of 2020. You're 2.5 years in. What's the biggest lesson that you've learned about like running a craft brewery? What's the thing, like if somebody came in here tomorrow and was like, hey, I want to start a brewery, what's the best one single piece of advice you would give anybody who is considering this road fraught with peril and all sorts of crazy stuff?
I would say be prepared for challenges, be prepared to challenge yourself. As much as we think we know, we don't know everything, and I think we have to be compassionate, we have to be listeners, because when you start a business, you're working with other individuals, you're working with other people, and so you're bonded in that way, and so it's very important that in order, I think, to be successful, you have to listen to each other. You have to deal with all the struggles because everything won't be easy, but you have to be open to acknowledging that maybe you're not always right and other people have very valid things to say and other thoughts. And so I think you really have to take a approach where I didn't start this brewery, we started this brewery, or we're this brewery. So it's a collective, so you kind of have to check your ego a lot of times at the door in order to make sure that collectively the place is going to be the best that it can.
Yeah. Interesting. One thing I wanted to talk about is like there's a lot of really awesome art on your walls, and as I was walking in, there's a dude up on a he must not be afraid of heights. He's on a scissor lift, doing an amazing mural outside. Talk to me about some of the artwork. How did you decide who to have featured on your walls. I think it definitely adds a lot of character, a lot of literal color to the walls and brightens up the place. But I just think it's so wonderful. I've always been, my mom was an artist and she taught art. And so like, I love art. Art is, having a painting up or something that somebody kind of puts their creative energy into is really special to me. So I love the fact that you've got so much of it. What was kind of like the story behind that?
Yeah, it's a little bit of research of artists out there and their style, their aesthetic, and also it's kind of messaging in a way too, like when you talk about the artists on your wall, like who are you talking about, and I think that all kind of factors in who we've decided to be our artists. Most of them have been identified by myself, and then I bring it to the team, like, hey, okay, I think this artist is awesome. This is what they're about. This is their style. How do we feel? Are we on the same page? So that's kind of been the factor. And then going back to intentionality too, making sure the artists are living in our community, are a part of our community, represent inclusivity, represent diversity. Like, it's just, that's all part of the je ne sais quoi of what we've been talking about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, just making sure that, it reflects a bigger community than just beer swilling nerds, but
right, exactly.
So the muralist, by the way, plug to Filippo. Filippo was here, is his Instagram handle, and we were able to secure a grant from the Lake Street Council and get Filippo on board. He's got an art studio in the Northrop King building in northeast Minneapolis. Huge project. I mean, it's a giant south-facing 20-foot high by 100 feet long mural, and it's incredible.
I mean, it literally is the side of the building.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
And if you haven't been to Arbiter and you love murals, get your buns down here because you will be blown away. It's beautiful.
Yeah,
Filippo, Philipo, as well.
Awesome.
Filippo was here.
All right, last question. What about Arbeiter are you most proud of? I want to hear from each of you because maybe the answers are going to be the same, maybe they're going to be different.
Well, I mean, I'm proud of this, the whole thing that we've been able to accomplish so far, like as a team. I mean, kind of going back to, gutting it out in those early days and, before we were open, and dealing with, the permitting process that felt like it took forever, and even before that, the fundraising process that felt like it took forever, and then once the build out started and COVID hit, I mean, just going back to all that and just being like having the belief in each other that we can get to this point where we're at now, and even sitting where we're at now, having the excitement to, look forward to what we're still capable of, and, what we can, how much more we can still grow and stuff. Like, it's just the fact that we all had so much, I guess, faith and confidence and trust in each other to get us to get us to this point is what I'm super proud of. I mean, I'm of course I'm proud of the beer. Like, I can't not say that.
Garth, how about you? What are you most proud of?
Haha pills.
There it is.
I mean, I think Aaron nailed it. I mean, and it was brought up earlier in the interview too. I mean, there's just, I don't know, the challenges are never ending, and to be able to try to work through that and communicate and push on while still creating like an amazing space. It's just all of it. It'd probably be easier to be like, what are you not proud of? Which I guess I don't really have a ton there either. But I mean, it's just
maybe the asshat who stole the bathroom art the other day.
Quit.
What in the hell? Okay, that's one
I know
thing.
you're listening to this podcast.
Yeah,
because it's a bunch of unsavory
one
figures.
One of the 7 of you asshats, bring back the needlepoint.
Quit stealing. Yeah.
Now this is really weird. This is going to sound odd.
Okay.
But
it was you.
No, it wasn't me. But I hope it's because every time I'm here, I always try to pee in the same bathroom. And if I walk in there today and that's the stall, I'm going to be out for blood. I've got a sock full of kiwis in the car, and I'm going to go vigilante justice on whichever one of you 7 bums listening took that needlepoint off the wall, because that is unacceptable. Anyhow, go ahead.
Well, Dan, I'm dying to know, and I'm sure 7 listeners are dying to know, which stall is it?
Okay, so it's as you're walking down, you take a first left, and it's the middle one.
Oh, okay.
That's the last one that got stolen.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Oh, no.
It said
what?
It said, "Oh crap."
Yes.
Yeah, that's gone. That was the one.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
I'm just proud of all the staff and the crew here, and everyone's on the same page, just to like keep propelling us into a great space. Everyone's has the same mission in mind, so that's amazing.
Last but not least, Juno.
Well, definitely echo what both Aaron and Garth said, but I'll also add to that too. I think one of the things I'm most proud about is how we've been able to be a part of our community here. Obviously, we lie in a unique space with the remnants of the 3rd Precinct here. So there's been a lot of trauma in this neighborhood. This neighborhood is very community focused, and so I'm pretty proud of how we've been able to be a part of that community as one of the anchor businesses that are along Minnehaha. It's been a bit of a rise to the challenge in terms of being one of those leaders within the community, and so I know that I'm pretty happy with what we've done so far and how we've been interacting with our community. Plenty of more room to grow with that, but I would say is that very proud that we're part of this community and that we're trying to do our best to reflect our community as well.
That's awesome. Well, and I would echo all the things that you've said. I've been really happy to see this place open and see what it's kind of evolved into, and I'm excited to see what it's going to continue to evolve into. I think that's the amazing thing about craft beer is it changes and places change, but I think my hope is that the constant through all that will be that like desire to put forth quality beer, to have quality staff, and to have quality engagement with the community. I think that's really important. So
definitely, I will add. It's been great to have a business with a purpose. They're not mutually exclusive. You can have both. So I would love to see more of that with businesses out there, and I know that I will spend my dollars with businesses that are like-minded like that.
Oh yeah, that's a big thing right now, and I think there's a lot of people out there are thinking more about not just what the product is, but who are the people behind the product and what do they stand for. So I think that's really important, kind of a call to action for people out there to think about that. But yeah, so if you haven't been to Arbeiter before, like Garth said, get your buns in here, check out the mural, and have some lagers, have some hazy IPAs, have some sours, have some and really enjoy. Actually, I'm gonna throw out a pro tip here, because I like to frequent this place if you haven't noticed, but come for the game night. If you come for the game night, bring games, bring friends, you get happy hour pricing, which hey, in this crazy time when everything's really expensive, saving a little money on your liquid excitement, that's a win. So, gentlemen, I want to thank you for taking time out of your days. I know that you are all very busy, and we've talked about doing this for a long while, but I'm really happy not only that we're here having this talk on the podcast, but I'm also happy to consider you all friends. So thank you so much.
Likewise, Dan. I think Juno and I were racing to say the same thing. We
Yep.
can go back and forth, but you're such a beautiful human being in this community too. That I mean, everyone that knows you loves you, and you really like uplift this greater community. And you don't have to be doing a podcast, but you do it for the love of it, and we really appreciate that. So thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Yeah, no problem. Well, cheers.
Very well said, Garth. And yeah, Dan, I've thoroughly enjoyed getting to know you over the years.
Yeah. We've had some epic beer chats.
We very much so have, yeah. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
The town hall story for what was the town hall's 20th anniversary?
Oh no! It was this fall.
20
okay.
25
yes,
year anniversary.
25 year anniversary. So
anniversary.
yeah, we got to talk about this. This is a funny one because I have a number of years. No, like 2 years ago, I went with a group of people. They were Mug Club members, and they had enough points for like a private tour, and they invited me to go along. And it was kind of like right after Barrel Aged Week, and Mike was kind of doing a thing, and he kept bringing out these like flight boards of the barrel aged barley wine and different versions of that, and they're like, "Oh, I don't think we're gonna have time for the tour." I was like, "Oh, bummer." So at the 25th anniversary thing, the night they had all the alumnus back, I'm like, Derek, can I just like take a quick peek down or go down to the second little thing, and there's a bunch of other people down there having beers, and he's like, here's the cooler. He walks in, and it's Aaron
In the deep
in the
guts
in the guts of town hall, and they're like, we open the
cast
door,
cooler.
and I have this picture of Derek's face looking like he's like, a dad came downstairs and the kids are having to sleep over and they're like lighting stuff on fire. He's like, what the hell? And you guys are like, it was such a funny,
That's right.
a funny craft beer
I forgot
moment.
what story that was going to be till just a few moments ago. Yeah, I was personally showing Josh and Garth around, and we were in the cask cooler, which is about the farthest, deepest place in the cellar at Town Hall where you can possibly like dig your way down into. And I was kind of showing them how the cask system works. And I think I was even standing like up on like
you were
shelf
on
or something, and like I was pointing at something,
Yeah.
and opens the door, and there's Dan, and we're all just like, yeah, exactly, like
We felt like we got busted.
Yeah,
Dude,
it's like,
so
oh, geez.
no.
Oh no! Yeah, that was a good one.
That was awesome.
That's the Minnesota craft beer scene is a wonderful place. There's a lot of great connections, and if you're not a part of it, come on into your local place. Maybe hit up Arbeiter and get to know the people. They're great people here. So thanks again. This has been another episode, another on location episode of a 1 Pint Stand. Cheers.
Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
With that, we are at the close of another episode of a 1 Pint Stand. I was so excited and kind of a little bit nervous, to be honest with you, to sit down with some of my favorite people in the craft beer scene. Not just the Minnesota craft beer scene, the craft beer scene. Juno Garth and Aaron opened their hearts and their tap lines to me as we talked beer. And I guess I just wanted it to go so well, and I feel like the conversation was as effortless as drinking a Ha-Ha Pils. So that was really cool. I hope that my love and appreciation for Arbeiter came through in the interview. I truly adore that place and so many of the people who make that brewery what it is. More than many other episodes, this particular episode, I think, really illustrates why I love doing this podcast. Oftentimes, people ask me how much money I make doing this podcast, and I've made the same amount of money I have doing this podcast as I have in the NBA, which is zero. I tell them that I don't make any money doing the podcast. The next question is invariably, well, why do you do it then? Isn't it a lot of work? Yeah, it's a metric butt ton of work. There's a lot of work that goes into it, but it's not about money. Life is not about money. Obviously, we need money for to get by. But if you can invest your time into something that you believe in and you feel like you're putting some good out there in the universe, it doesn't need to be about money. Happiness for me is meeting new people and connecting good energy with others. The joy I got from sitting down with Juno, Garth, and Aaron has more value to me than money. The laughs, smiles, and most of all, their friendship means more. There's no value you could possibly put on that. So I just want to thank them for the wonderful beer chat. So this has been another episode of A One Pint Stand, a Minnesota craft beer podcast where the pants stay on, but the caps come off. Cheers.
We better have a lot to say here.
Quite a lineup. I'm going to get a picture of this. No one's going to believe me that this happened.
So both Garth and Juno got up to get beers while I was babbling about beer, and we have more beers than we know what to do with at the moment. So,
I mean, I have an idea of what we can do.
Well, fair.
This is not my first rodeo.
All right.
I didn't wear my comfy pants for nothing.
Giddy up.